Hello and welcome to today's SmartStart onboarding webinar. I'm Erin on the product team, and today we are going to talk about how to get started as a newly licensed user in Smartsheet. So on the agenda for today, we're going to learn what Smartsheet is and what types of problems it solves. We're also going to define the key components of Smartsheet and understand the relationship between sheets, reports, and dashboards. Then we'll walk through a Smartsheet solution to see how those components work together. And finally, we'll conclude by reviewing how to get started and also what additional resources are available to you on your Smartsheet journey. Now, I do have some colleagues on the line who will be answering questions throughout the webinar, so feel free to type any questions that you have in the Q&A box. So first, if you're brand new to Smartsheet, you're probably wondering, what is Smartsheet exactly? Well, Smartsheet is the platform for organizational achievement. And by that, we mean that it's a work management platform, but it has all of the powerful core capabilities that you need to get things done, as well as hundreds of pre-built templates and solutions, and a suite of premium add-on products all in one place. Smartsheet also integrates with all the other apps and services that you use on a regular basis. So you don't have to bounce back and forth from different solutions or go through 57 million different versions of something. With Smartsheet, you and your team can work together in real time from a single source of truth. Smartsheet really focuses on aligning your people with your technology so that your entire business can move faster, drive innovation, and achieve more. And what's nice is that Smartsheet's not only powerful, but it's also completely flexible. So Smartsheet empowers any user to easily design a solution that meets your unique needs and also adapts as those needs evolve. Which is why Smartsheet is the market-leading platform trusted by over 90% of the Fortune 100. And our clients use Smartsheet for a wide range of initiatives, anything from employee and customer onboarding to marketing campaigns, opening new retail stores, product launches, project management, strategic planning, HR, healthcare, finance, you name it. The possibilities are endless. It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what role you're in, Smartsheet really helps you achieve more. So now you're probably wondering, how does it do that exactly? Well, I think a great analogy for the flexibility of Smartsheet to solve any business problem is building blocks. You see, when you have a set of building blocks, you first decide what you want to build, and then from there you can build a plane or a tower or even a rocket ship. And all of those things have a different purpose and a different goal, but they're all built from the same foundational building blocks. And in Smartsheet, there are 4 major building blocks that you should become familiar with. The first and foremost is sheets. Sheets are the foundation of your work in Smartsheet, and they're where all of your data actually resides. So 99% of the time, any solution that you're building in Smartsheet is going to include at least one sheet. And one of the great things about sheets is that not only are they really powerful, but they're also really flexible. So you can work in whatever format works best for what you're trying to accomplish. So the default view of most sheets is a grid view, kind of columns and rows if you're familiar with that construct. But you can also view your sheet as a calendar, or as a card view, or in a Gantt chart, and we'll take a look at all of those. But sheets, of course, are very dynamic and flexible that way. Also, sheets are made up of very special column types that track different types of data. And what's nice about this is tracking those different types of data allows you to power other capabilities, including automation, or formulas, or forms, some other things that we'll talk about. Also on sheets, you have the ability to use formulas for aggregation and calculation. Maybe you want to sum some totals. Maybe you want to get some data about what's happening across your work. So formulas can be used on sheets and in sheet summary, which we'll take a look at that as well. Also, because sheets are where you store all your data, you also have the ability to attach files, proof content, and even manage conversations with your team so that you don't have to be bouncing back and forth. All of that information can be stored, managed, and tracked directly in your sheet. And last but not least, Sheets allow you to create automated workflows. And automation is very, very powerful in Smartsheet. One of the key differentiators, I would say, because it really allows you to take the manual out of your process and let Smartsheet actually do that work for you. So we'll take a look at that as well. The next building block that you want to become familiar with is a form. And forms are really a device that allow you to collect information from anyone and then take action on it. So I can send a form to someone who's a Smartsheet user. They don't have to be a Smartsheet user. They don't even have to know what Smartsheet is in order to fill out a form. And forms allow me to standardize the collection of information and then put it into a sheet so that I can do something with it. Very powerful and a ton of different use case examples. Forms are completely customizable. I can customize the field properties. I can use custom branding and colors. They're also really great to use on the Smartsheet mobile app. So if you haven't downloaded the Smartsheet mobile app yet, I encourage you to do that as well. Forms are great for on-the-go data collection, very easy to do. And you can distribute forms in a number of ways. You can share them via email or a hyperlink. You can embed them in a dashboard, or you can even publish them on a website. So we'll talk a little bit more about forms as well. And the third building block you want to be really familiar with are reports. Reports are kind of like a high-level filter that allow you to easily manage work across multiple sheets. Now, of course, you can build a report that looks at a single sheet, but where it becomes really powerful is when you have multiple sheets that you're working with and you either want to answer a key business question. Maybe I want to know what are all the at-risk items across my 5 projects that I'm running, or where you're trying to effectively manage information across those sheets, because reports are bi-directional. So any updates that you make on a report will write back to the underlying sheets and vice versa. So again, from a work management standpoint, reports really make it easy to manage work across multiple sheets in a scalable way. Again, reports also have a lot of flexibility in how you view them. The default, again, is that grid view, but you can also view them as a Gantt chart or in a calendar format. And you can share reports to others, you can send them as a PDF, you can publish them, and you can also embed them into a Smartsheet dashboard. Which leads me to the fourth building block that you want to become familiar with, which are Smartsheet dashboards. Dashboards are a communication tool that allow you to get the right information to the right people at the right time, so that your audience, whoever they are, can really make better decisions faster. The beauty of a dashboard is that you can surface key information without having to expose all the underlying data. So depending on who your audience is, maybe it's your executive team or your customer or an outside partner, and you don't necessarily want to share them to all of your sheets and reports and have them in the weeds. You just really want them to have some key high-level metrics or results. A dashboard allows you to easily surface that information in a live, real-time format without having to share them to all the underlying work. And you can also use a dashboard as a portal to centralize resources. Maybe I have a big program that I'm running and I have a bunch of different assets for my team, and I want to put them all in one place that's easy for my team to go to and find everything they need. Again, the portal allows me to do that very effectively. What's nice about dashboards, of course, is that the data that you put in there is live. So as things update in your underlying sheets and reports, they will update on the dashboard in real time. So you always have the most up-to-date information in a dashboard. Dashboards also allow you to build charts to visualize your trends and metrics from your underlying sheets and reports. And you can also embed web content into a dashboard, including videos or forms or other applications. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you display information and what type of information you can share to your audience. Now, we just talked about the 4 major building blocks. I also want to highlight the user types that we have in Smartsheet, because this is oftentimes a question I get from users. And we have two user types in Smartsheet. We have licensed users and we have free users. So licensed users are creative users in Smartsheet. They can create and own and administer new sheets and forms, reports and dashboards, and share them out. A free user is someone who can be shared as either a viewer or an editor to existing objects in order to collaborate. So if you give them editor permissions, they can edit fields and update attachments and conversations, that sort of thing. But a free user doesn't have the ability to create new items. So when we go back to our building block analogy, a licensed user can build with the building blocks, and a free user can interact with the building blocks. So now that we've discussed our building blocks in Smartsheet to kind of get a conceptual understanding, and we've talked about the user types, let's actually walk through a Smartsheet workflow example so we can see how we put those building blocks together to solve a problem. So the example that I want to walk through today is a strategic plan workflow. And this is actually a template set that you can download and take home with you today. And I'll show you how to do that. But I first want to walk through this one at a high level. And the reason I want to walk through this one is because it uses multiple sheets and reports. And this is a question I oftentimes get from new users is how do I use multiple sheets together in a solution? So what I like about this one is that it shows how to use multiple sheets in different ways and different reports. So in a strategic plan workflow, everything begins with requesting your projects or your plans for the year and aligning them to your initiatives. So say I'm planning for my organization and different departments are trying to plan for the year. We want to standardize the collection of that information. So a form, as we talked about, one of our building blocks, is a great way to do that. So we start with a request form, and every team puts in a request form for whatever project or plan they want to run. And all of those requests come into a sheet, a project request sheet. And on that sheet, then we can collect that information, we can organize and prioritize it. We can also set up some automated workflows to manually run those requests through a process. So oftentimes when those requests come in, they need to be approved by leadership before they can move forward. So we can actually set up an automated approval process. So as soon as those requests come in, they get routed to the correct manager for approval. And then, of course, once projects or programs are approved, then we might actually want to create a separate project sheet for each of those projects. So in this example, we have Project A and Project B, and you could have 2 of these, you could have 10 of these, however many you need in your process. But again, using a templatized format allows for some consistency and some scale. So in this example, our project sheets also are set up in a Gantt timeline format so we can see the relationship between tasks and we can track some consistencies across those projects. And then kind of the next level, as we've got our projects running, then we want to start asking some business questions and kind of having some greater visibility across all of our projects. What's happening? And that's where we will probably build some reports. And again, as I mentioned, reports are great, like a high-level filter that allow you to answer some business questions and also manage work across multiple sheets. So I may want a report that's showing me all the things that are in progress or a report that's showing me all the things that are at risk. I can build as many reports as I want based on whatever question I want to ask of my data. And then, of course, we also may want to do some aggregation and calculation across all of our projects. And we can build another sheet that we'll call, in this case, a master roll-up sheet. And we can do some cross-sheet formulas on there. So maybe I want to know my budget totals across all of my projects, or I want to know the percent complete across all of my projects, all those things. I can easily build some formulas so I can do some aggregation calculation across all of my work. And then finally, I will have to report out to my stakeholders about everything that's happening across our strategic plan for the year. But I don't necessarily want everybody to be in the weeds with every single project or every single report. So I can easily build a dashboard that's just going to show the high-level metrics of what's happening at a high level for people to kind of get the big picture about how our strategic planning is going. So now that we kind of have that contextual understanding, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Smartsheet and let's actually take a look at this solution in action. So I've jumped into my Smartsheet account here, and I just want to point out some quick navigational things. So in Smartsheet, on the right-hand side, you'll always see your picture, and this is your account information. On the left-hand side, you have this sort of hamburger menu. And if you click on that, it opens up your left panel. And in your left panel, you have your home, which is where all of your folders and your workspaces live, where you can organize and store all of your data. You have a recents, which will show recently opened items. You have your favorites, so anything that you star as a favorite item. And then you have this plus tab here, which takes you to what's called the Solution Center. And the Solution Center has over 100 pre-built templates and template sets available for you to download. So there are 3 ways to create new work in Smartsheet. And if you hit create here at the top of the Solution Center, you can see you can start from a blank object. Maybe I want a blank grid or a blank project sheet, and you can manually fill things out. Or you can import data from another application. So maybe I want to pull in some data from Excel or Microsoft Project or Google Sheets or Trello. I can do that. Or the third way, of course, is to start with a template. And the nice thing about starting with a template is, again, it kind of gives you some of those building blocks with some best practice built in. So a template by itself is just a sheet that has some best practice built in. And something called a template set is kind of a set of building blocks altogether. So it will probably include some sheets and some reports and some dashboards and some forms, depending on the solution. So I encourage you to explore the Solution Center if you haven't yet. Download some of the templates. They're completely free. You can check them out. And they're great for inspiration on how to set things up, especially if you're new. So in this example, we're using the strategic plan template set. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in strategic plan in the search, and I can see the template set here. When I click on learn more for any template set, it's actually going to bring me to a preview dashboard that's going to tell me more about what's in this template set. What building blocks do I get here? Oh, great, I get a dashboard, I get 2 reports, I get 2 project sheets, I get a roll-up sheet, I get my project sheet. So I know what building blocks I get in this set. It also gives me a PDF getting started guide, which is going to give me step-by-step instructions on how to put these building blocks together. And then, of course, I can click Get Template Set Now to download that template set directly into my Smartsheet account. Now, I've already gone ahead and downloaded this one, so I'll close these. And I'm going to go back to my home here. And in home, there's 2 main buckets. There's your Sheets folder, which is kind of like your My Documents. It's sort of your personal organization of information. And then we have workspaces, which are kind of like shared drives. And what's nice about a workspace is that it allows you to share a bunch of items with a group of people in an easy way. So we'll come back to workspaces in a little bit. I'll show you how to build one. But first I want to show you that I've already downloaded this template set. And when I download anything, it's going to first fall into my Sheets folder because it's just downloaded to me. And in this folder, you can see I've got my dashboard, I've got my reports, I've got my roll-up sheet, my project sheet, and my project request sheet. So let's go ahead and start with my project request sheet and see what this looks like. So this sheet is in grid view. It's columns and rows. And some important things to note, as I mentioned, Sheets are made up of very special column types, and you can kind of see that the data looks a little different. So this one is a contact list column type, for example, and I can see that it shows me the name as well as the associated email address for people. And what's valuable about this is then it also allows me to build some automation, like if I want to set up reminders or alerts for people. So best practice, if I'm ever assigning tasks or I have people involved in my process, I probably want to use a contact list column type. We also have, actually, if I click on any of these columns, it'll show me the column types available. We have text number columns, of course. We have date columns, which give you a calendar date picker, and those are also really valuable, especially if I want to use the calendar view on my sheet or report. We have drop-down list columns. You can do a single select or you can do a multi-select. We have checkboxes. We have a whole bunch of different symbols. So if you want some visual components in your sheet, whether it's red, yellow, green balls or stars or flags, you name it. And then we also have some system columns. So I have an auto number column. You can see over here where it's going to create an auto number for each new row. Or I want to see the created date or who created this row or when it was modified and by whom. So becoming familiar with the column properties and making sure you use the correct column for the data type you're using will really help power the rest of your process. So you can see here we've got a auto number here, we've got a contact list here, we've got a drop down here, we've got a date column type here. So again, it's automatically recognizing what type of data we're putting in. There's also something called a primary column in each sheet. And the primary column, you'll know it's the primary column because it's bolded and it column icons here. This one will tell you it's the primary column. But what's nice about the primary column is that it's the column that sort of labels all of your rows. So oftentimes, like in this example, I'm just putting my project name in my primary column. You'll also notice that some of the rows here are colored, and that's because we've set up conditional formatting rules, and you can find that up here in the toolbar. And conditional formatting rules allow me to set up some automation whereby when certain criteria are met, I'm actually going to color or change the formatting on my sheet so I have a quick visual indicator. So in this example, if the supervisor approval is declined, then I want my background to be, well, we want it to be red or yellow, whatever we want it to be. We can make our text bold, we can do whatever we want. And then we can apply it to a specific column or to the entire row. Anything that's declined is going to have the entire row red. So when I come into this sheet, I have a quick visual indicator that, oh, these things may need some attention. Also on this sheet, as we mentioned, forms are a major building block. And this sheet has one form that's already built. That's our request form. And I've actually got it open here already so you can take a look. This is what a form looks like. And forms are great, again, for standardizing the collection of information. So anybody in any department, if they have a new project that they need to add to our strategic plan, they can come in and put it in here. So maybe this one I'll just call this one Project Beta. Maybe June is putting in the request. I'll have her request me as the supervisor. And this is aligned to Initiative 3. Then this is aligned to our new marketing launch. Maybe the proposed start date is January 1st, and it's going to end in end of February. I can go ahead and submit that. The form's going to tell me, thanks, your response has been added. And then I come back to my sheet and notice I'm already going to get this notice that, hey, there's been changes made. Refresh your sheet. And I can go ahead and hit the refresh button. And boom, my new row is added. And notice this little highlighter button here at the top. I've got highlight changes on. I love this. It's a great tool to utilize if you want to see things that have changed. So you can view changes in the last hour, the last day. My personal favorite is since I last viewed the sheet. So I can easily see, great, here's my new request. And notice it's filled in all the information that we put into that request. Also notice that in the supervisor approval, it says submitted. Now, the reason it says that is because I have an automated workflow already set up on this sheet for an approval request. So if I come under the automation button here at the top, notice forms and automation both have their own buttons here at the top left. And I can see that I've already got a workflow built for a request and approval. And if I open this up, I can see the logic. And what's great about automated workflows is you can set up these conditional rules and you can set up as many criteria as you like. And you can also add multiple layers to them as well. So in this one, we have set up the rule where the trigger is that when a row is added or changed and the request number, there is a request number value added, then we want to send an approval request to whoever's listed in the supervisor email column. And we even have a custom message that we put in here asking that supervisor to approve it. And so this will automatically be triggered whenever a new row is added that has a request number on it. We can also add different additional steps to this rule if we want to. So we can add something else to happen if it's approved or something else to happen if it's declined. We have a lot of options here. So if I jump back into my sheet, I can see that this request has been submitted. And since I was listed as the supervisor here, and if I open up my notification center up here in the left, I can see here is your new project approval request. And I can open it right here. I can also receive this approval request via email. I can receive it in the mobile app on my phone. I have a lot of ways that I can receive this, but since I'm already in Smartsheet, it's nice that I can see it right here. And I can see all the information that has been submitted for this request. I can put in a comment here, and I can approve or decline it. We'll go ahead and approve it. Now I can see that this request has been approved. And if I go back into my sheet, again, it's going to tell me something's changed. Go ahead and refresh. And now I can see that the status has changed to approved here. Also, I can see there's these little teeny narrow columns here on the left. One is for attachments, one's for our conversations, and one's for our proofing, and one's for row action indicators. And I can actually see the message here that this has been approved. So I can easily start a conversation here on any row. Also here on the right rail, I have the ability to view all the conversations that are happening on this sheet, or I can manage conversations at the sheet level here as well versus just at the row level. Same thing with attachments. I can see all the attachments that have been added to the sheet. I can manage them here. Proofing, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Update requests, publishing. I also have an activity log. So if I want to see all the activity that's been happening on this sheet, I have the ability to do that. And then last but not least, I have what's called the sheet summary. And sheet summary is really valuable because it's a great way to provide some high-level information on my sheet without taking up real estate on my sheet itself. So maybe I want to put in a description about this sheet, or maybe I want to run some formulas where I'm calculating some totals. So I want to count how many Initiative 1 items have been approved. But I don't necessarily want to take up valuable rows on my sheet to do that, I can do that here in my sheet summary. I can also attach images or other items. Anything I need, I can do here in the sheet summary. And what's nice is it just kind of pops out in this right panel, so I have access to it, or anybody shared to the sheet has access to it without necessarily needing to, again, take up real estate on the sheet itself. Another thing that I can do on sheets is I can set filters. And notice I've actually got some pre-built filters here on this sheet. So maybe I want to filter by just the things that are initiative 1, and I can put a filter on any column where I can set the criteria. I can set multiple criteria. I can also make filters shared, which means that anybody else shared to my sheet can also view this particular filter in the filter menu. So notice I can set up multiple filters and I can share them if I'm the owner or the admin on the sheet as well. Let's go back to our full view here. And last but not least, you're probably wondering, great, so I've got a bunch of projects that are approved. What do I do now? Well, as we saw in our workflow, we probably want to create a separate project sheet for each of these open projects. And we'll create those as separate sheets, but one of the nice things we can do is we can actually hyperlink that sheet into a cell. So if I click on that hyperlink, boom, that's going to take me directly into that project sheet. And then of course I can go back in my browser if I need to, but I've actually just hyperlinked some project sheets here. I also have them open, and notice when you open any new sheet or object in Smartsheet, you can open it as a separate tab. So here's my project A, for example, and each object has its own URL, which you can also send and share to others. So this one, for example, is a unique URL for project A, but only people who are shared to that item will be able to open it. We'll talk about sharing in a little bit here. But notice in this project sheet, I have this set to Gantt view. So I can see the relationships between tasks. I also have a symbols column in here where I've got a formula that's actually helping to change my symbol automatically. Formulas in Smartsheet are great. They're not only for aggregation and calculation, but you can actually also use formulas to automate some things. So if I want my colored ball to change based on criteria, or if I want something else to change, I can set formulas to do some of that work for me as well. Now in this project sheet, I have it set to Gantt view, so I can see this Gantt chart, and of course on the right or the left-hand side here, I can scroll over and see all the other columns. Project sheets have some special columns when you have dependencies enabled. One's called predecessors and one's called duration, and these help you manage your Gantt chart. Now we're not going to get into the weeds about that today, we don't have time, but we do have a whole bunch of other resources on project sheets if you want a deep dive into how to use your dependencies in a project sheet. But what I want to talk about here is the fact that sheets can be viewed in a number of different ways. So as we mentioned, this, our project request sheets in a grid. This one we're using in a Gantt view, but we could also view it in a card view. And all we have to do is flip the view here on our toolbar. And card view is really great for organization and prioritization. So I can view by progress. I can view by who's got what tasks assigned to them. I can view them by category. I can view them by state. I can view them by health. I have a lot of different ways that I can do that. And of course I can organize and prioritize things in here. If I want to reassign something, I can just simply click and drag. Card view, again, gives you a lot of flexibility in how you organize and prioritize work. And then of course I may also want to view this as a calendar. And what's nice about the calendar view, of course, is it shows me all my tasks over time. I can see what's happening when, where things overlap, and I can click into any of these items to see more information about that particular task. So also have a lot of flexibility from the calendar format. So let's go back to Gantt view here. And I also have Project B open. Notice how Project A and Project B are built from the same template. And again, very valuable because a template, once you create a template or use a template, you can save it as a template and use it again, which then gives you a blueprint to use multiple times, which means, okay, all my column types are the same, all my data is the same, and this becomes really valuable when we get to the reporting piece, which we'll show you next. But I just want you to see that both of these projects are different projects, and they may have different information, different values, different people working on them. You can even change the coloring on them. So this one I have it in green, but the column names and column types and data types are the same, which then is going to allow me to do some high-level reporting in a very easy way. So let's jump back actually to Project A, and I want to show you some other cool things that I might want to do. Now, one of the things that you might notice on project sheets, and especially when I'm using a Gantt chart, is the ability to use hierarchy. So the ability to collapse or expand, and I can indent and outdent items using my toolbar. Let's just undo that back here. And what this does is actually creates a relationship between all of these items and allows me to organize and structure my sheet really effectively. I also have on my project sheet another automation. Notice in here I have an assigned task alert. So when anybody is assigned a task, I want to send an alert to that person who it's been assigned to and tell them, hey, you've been assigned to this task, and put in whatever the task name is from that row. So again, I'm letting Smartsheet do some of that work for me so that I don't have to chase down all my team members and remind them or let them know something's been assigned to them or when something's due. Automation really allows Smartsheet to be smart about it and do that for me. So I can alert someone, I can set up reminders based on dates, I can request an update. So maybe I have something that's past due or whatever, and I want to send an update request to someone and ask them to update specific fields. I can send an approval workflow, which we just saw in our previous sheet. I can also send alerts to Slacks or Teams. I can lock and unlock things. I can move rows and copy rows. I have a lot of capability there. Also, I have the ability to proof content. So we have a whole suite of other capabilities called content collaboration in Smartsheet. And I can actually proof content within my sheet. So I can turn it on here on my right rail, and I can enable it on a sheet. And maybe, for example, I have a contract that my team needs to review. I can go ahead and then notice my little proofing column will show up, and I can upload a file. So maybe here's my contract. And then once that file is uploaded, I can actually point things out and make comments. So maybe I want to say, update the company name here. And I can put in multiple things. Maybe I can put in another, I can also mention my colleagues. So my colleague Alexandra, and I want her to review this section. And I can even request feedback. So I can even send this to another colleague. Maybe I need to send this to my colleague Brent. I can put in a custom message. And now I've got, again, all the associated pieces and all of my communication and my conversations directly in my sheet. So folks don't have to bounce back and forth. They can find all the things that they need right here in the project sheet. Now, next thing is I may want to calculate some totals across my multiple projects. So this is where I've actually built a master roll-up sheet. So this is, again, a third type of sheet that I'm using in my process. And in this one, you notice I've colored and formatted some things. Notice that my formulas are going to automatically update as data in my sheets update. But I'm running some cross-sheet formulas. So similar to other applications you may have used, I can create formulas that pull data from multiple sheets into one sheet. So if I want to see across all my projects how many items are in progress, I can count if the health ball across all of my projects. I can also see, how many tasks are assigned to June across all of my projects. I can see how many things are aligned to each of my initiatives, how many items are declined. I can see my budget actuals and my spending. Again, all of these are using functions and formulas that are pulling in data from multiple sheets. So again, sheets allow you to do aggregation and calculation, and oftentimes you may want to do that and pull in totals from across multiple pieces of work. And then I may also want to ask some business questions. So I may want to build some reports. Notice my reports look very similar to sheets, but they work very differently. So a report, as I mentioned, is kind of like a high-level filter that's going to pull in data from multiple sheets. So in this case, I've got stuff pulling from Project A as well as Project B based on criteria. So you have something called the report builder. And in the report builder is where you set your criteria. So I want to pull from both Project A and Project B, and I can set other criteria. Maybe I only want to see items that are in progress. I can also adjust this. Maybe I only want to see items that are in progress that are assigned to Brent. And then I can go ahead and hit run. And again, my report's automatically going to update and pull in the live criteria that is met. I'm going to go ahead and go back and remove that for a second here. Also, the information in my report is live. So as data changes, so maybe, for example, this item becomes complete, and I may want to change my information here in my report. And I go ahead and save it and refresh. Notice it no longer pulls to my report because it no longer meets the criteria. And that information has already been written back to Project A. So if I go back to Project A, I can now see that task has been marked as complete. So reports are great for, again, managing work across multiple sheets from one view, or answering business questions. Notice I also have a at-risk report here where I'm pulling all of the at-risk items from both my projects, and I want to see, where those at-risk items lie within each phase. So reports, again, give me a great way to display the information that I want from across multiple sheets in a scalable way. And then finally, the last piece of our solution is the dashboard. And as we mentioned, the dashboard serves as a communication vehicle for our stakeholders, whoever our audience is. Maybe it's our team members, and maybe we want to centralize some quick links to all of the pieces of our process here. Or maybe it's our executives who just want to see a high-level view of what's happening across our programs. Or it could be someone external to our organization, like a partner or a vendor or a customer. But dashboards are a completely customizable way for us just to put the information that we want to share with others. And dashboards, if we click on the edit button here at the top, are made up of these customizable widgets. And we have 8 different widget types. So depending on what kind of information you're trying to display, whether it's metrics, which are, again, live data from an underlying sheet, or I want to build a chart. So notice I have a couple of charts that are built from my master roll-up sheet here. Or I can put in these shortcuts to other items. I can input an entire report into my dashboard, images, titles, text, or web content, which allows me to display videos or forms or other web content directly in my dashboard. And it's really pretty easy to set these up. I can move widgets around by simply clicking and dragging. I've got some little guidelines here. I can change the colors of text and background. So notice in here, I actually have some quick links. I have some charts that I've built, and these are pulling data directly from my master roll-up sheet. So I have built a chart widget that's pulling in this information and giving me a great visual display to help me, again, see at a glance, oh, Kirk has the most projects on his plate and Henry has the least. Maybe I want to redistribute that. Or it looks like we've still got a majority of our projects in process. You know, the saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Charts, again, give me that quick visual indicator at a high level to understand what's happening. And also, again, my reports, my in-progress report and my at-risk report, I can actually embed these directly in my dashboard so that whoever my audience is can view them and make some decisions based off of them, but without necessarily having to be shared to all the underlying sheets and reports and data. So now that we have talked about all of the pieces and how they fit together in this solution, and I think it's important to state that all of these pieces are driving each other. So, of course, the form populates the project or the project request sheet, which populates then our project sheets, which then populate our master roll-up. And the project sheets also populate our reports. And all of these sheets and reports then populate our dashboard. So all of these items, these building blocks, are linked to each other and help support each other. Now, once I have all of my solution pieces built, I can easily share them. So for example, if I go back to my request sheet here, notice all of these items have a share button in the upper right-hand corner. And I can share with anybody, and I have a couple different permission levels I can share. I can share someone as an admin, and that pretty much gives them almost the same permissions that I have as the owner, where they can realign and restructure the layout of my sheet or report or dashboard. I can make someone an editor, either one who can share or cannot share, and editors can come in and they can edit unlocked columns and rows. They can also attach files, they can add comments to conversations, they can proof things, they have a lot of interactive capability. And then the final permission is viewer. And that's just like it sounds. A viewer is view only. They can only view the information you share with them, but they don't have any ability to interact with it. So say I want to share this individual sheet with Henry. I can go ahead and select him. I want to make him an editor. And it's always a best practice when I'm sharing to put in a message to them so that they know what it is they're being shared to and what they're supposed to do with it. And then I can go ahead and share. And I can share each of these items individually with different people. Maybe I only want my project team shared to project A or project B. Or if I go back to my home here, I had mentioned before workspaces, and workspaces are really a best practice when you are working with a group of people, because it allows you to share a bunch of items to the same group of people in an easy way. So I don't have to manually go into each thing and share them differently. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new workspace. And I do that by right-clicking on workspaces here. And I'm going to call this one strategic plan. And I can create a new workspace here. Notice here's my strategic plan workspace. And then I may want to take my entire template set, all of these items, and I can simply click and drag them down, hover over my workspace, and it's going to ask me, do you want to put these all in the workspace? And I'm going to say yes. And now notice in my strategic plan workspace, I've got all of my items in here. And I can, and you can see all the items here, I can actually share at the workspace level. So maybe I want to share this then with a bunch of folks. Maybe I want to share it with Brent and with June and with Alexandra, like my entire team. I can also share to a group if I've created a group. So, my corporate team, whoever it is that I'm working with. And I can grant permissions for everybody. So maybe everybody's a viewer to the workspace. I can set that up, notify people, and now everybody is shared to all the items. So anything that's changes or updated, all those people will be shared. And then if I want to grant more granular permissions to individual items, like notice that I also shared Alexandra to this project. Maybe I want to share project B with Kirk as an editor or an admin. I can add Kirk and I can share him just to project B, and he does not have to be shared to the entire workspace or have all the other permissions, but I can share him either to the workspace or I can just share him to that sheet. And notice in my sharing window, I'll see if someone shared at the workspace level or at the sheet level. And I can also hover over here and I can see Kirk has been shared. So also when I'm thinking about structuring and organizing my work in Smartsheet, I have a lot of flexibility around where I want to put things. And a best practice is to put things in a workspace because it gives you more control over sharing both the large group of items as well as granular sharing. So workspace gives you a lot of power there. Now, a couple other things to talk about in navigation. We talked about the Solution Center where all your templates are, and that's here under the left panel with the plus sign. You can also get to the Solution Center clicking this grid icon here in the upper right-hand corner. This is the launcher. So you can also easily access the Solution Center there, as well as any other premium apps if your organization has those. As we showed, your Notification Center is up here in the upper right. And the Notification Center is where you'll see any update requests or approval requests or alerts or reminders, any of those kind of automation messages, things like that will all come into your Notification Center up here at the top. They'll also display on the Smartsheet mobile app if you have the mobile app, or you can set in your settings, your personal settings here under your picture, you can set them to go to your email. If you click on that question mark here at the top called Help and you select Help in Learning, that's going to take you directly into our Smartsheet Learning Center. It has some guided tracks. There's a Getting Started, Intermediate, Advanced, information for free users, system administrators. There's a bunch of webinars you can sign up for. Actually, if I go into any of the tracks, you can see here that you have a whole section on the right rail here. Will walk you through any of the features that you're looking for. So if you want to learn more about formulas, for example, you can come into the track. It's going to give you some text information. It will give you a video oftentimes that you can watch, as well as some step-by-step instructions. So the Learning Center is a great resource for you. And you can always click the search bar here at the top. Under webinars, we have a variety of different webinars that we run, so feel free to join one of those as well. Or you can also sign up for a training class led by one of our instructors. So just to recap what we did today, we talked about what Smartsheet is, this idea of the platform for organizational achievement. We talked about the major building blocks in Smartsheet, forms and sheets and reports and dashboards, and how those things fit together to solve a problem. We talked about how to download a template or a template set from the Solution Center. And we talked about some of the key functionality that you may want to incorporate, including automation or conditional formatting or filtering, or you may want to change the view of your sheet from a grid to a Gantt chart to a card view to a calendar. You name it. There's a lot that you can do. And of course, we don't have time to deep dive into all of those things today, but here are the next resources for you on your journey. So if you want to learn more about anything that we talked about today, I encourage you again to visit the Learning Center. You can get to the Learning Center by clicking that question mark in the upper right-hand corner of Smartsheet, or you can simply in your browser go to smartsheet.com/learning or help.smartsheet.com. Both go to the same place. And in the Learning Center, you can find step-by-step instructions, you can find tutorial videos, you can sign up for other webinars. We run webinars on a frequent basis about all sorts of different topics. You can also sign up for a training class. So I encourage you to start with the Learning Center if you want to learn more about any of the stuff we covered. Also, Solution Center templates are a great way to get started, especially if you're new. So as we mentioned in this example, you can download templates directly from the Solution Center by clicking that plus icon, or you can go to smartsheet.com/Solution Center and that will take you right into the Solution Center in the app. And I encourage you to explore some of the templates and template sets in there, if for nothing more than inspiration for when you're getting started. It's a great way to learn some best practice. And then we also have formal training and certification. So if you want to get more hands-on with this stuff, we have regular classes that are run by our training team that are a couple hours long where you can get really hands-on and build a solution. You can also prepare for a Smartsheet certification exam if you want to become that subject matter expert for your organization. So you can learn more about our training offerings at smartsheet.com/training. We also have a consulting team. So if you are thinking, wow, I really want to build something complex and I need some help building my solution, don't worry, we do have people who can help you with that. So if you want to build a complex custom solution and you need some help, feel free to reach out to our consulting team at smartsheet.com/consulting. And last but not least, of course, if you're having an issue or you have a burning question that you need answered, feel free to reach out to our support team and they will be able to assist you. All right, that's it for today. I do want to be respectful of people's time. We have covered a lot of information, so hopefully you at least came away with an understanding of what this Smartsheet thing is, some of the major components, and where to go find more information. And of course, we're always here to support you, so don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything you need. Hopefully we'll see you on another webinar. Thanks so much.